Centre of Excellence. First of all, apologies, Chris. We've got one apology, which is Gary Suttle. I don't think there's any others, is there? As he swiftly gets back to his seat.
That's correct, Chair. Just apologies from Councillor Suttle.
Thank you very much. Minutes of the last meeting, can I sign those as a true record? I'll take silence as a yes. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Anybody who's got any declaration of interest, please make them. Otherwise, if it crops up during the meeting, make me aware. Public participation, Chris?
Thank you, Chairman. No requests for public participation today. Thank you.
Agenda item 5, councillor questions.
Same again, Chairman. No questions from other councillors.
Thank you very much. Go to the forward plan as set out in the agenda. I know there's one amendment because the 20th of November, when we do the performance of trading activities of the company, so that will go on to full council on the 14th of December. That's correct, isn't it, Chris?
Yes, Chairman. Very correct.
Thank you very much. And then we go on to agenda item 7, Dorset Council Commission report. And I'm going to hand over to Claire.
Morning, everybody. My name's Claire Shields. I'm the Corporate Director for Commission and Partnerships and Children's Services and the Commissioner of the company. You will see I've set out a brief report today providing an overview of the status of work related with the company and also the status of the Enhanced Cooperation Agreement. And you will see that in my report, regular contract reviews and close working relationships remain in place and a real positive working relationship between the council and the company that is working well to deliver what we had set out to achieve. And lots of interest from other local authorities around the way that we're doing our work and some opportunities where they're thinking through together around whether there are options for them as well. So a good place for us to be in going forward. The executive leadership team and the board of directors is in a really strong position and operating effectively to be able to provide the work that we need to do going forward. So governance arrangements continue to be strong. You can see in my report that recruitment and retention remains a high priority, but everything in place to be able to meet the needs of the children that are there currently and in line with the growth requirements set out in the business plan. Ofsted has conducted an inspection and the results of that are due to be published soon. So I know between the company and the Commissioner we will provide a full report around the outcomes of those. Growth is in line with our expectations set out within the business plan, and we meet regularly to make sure that we're going to meet that trajectory of 72 by the end of term and beyond. You can see in the report that community engagement is strong, and we just took a little bit of time to focus on some really positive opportunities over the summer where the members of the community and children were able to experience the full range of opportunities on site and lots of really important feedback, particularly from children with SEND and their families, where the opportunities there are really effective from them. And we know we've always had a gap in North Dorset, so a start of something special, I think, as we move forward. The commissioning group, chaired by the Chief Executive, continues to meet and focused on the delivery of the next phases of growth, so the capital works that are required and making sure that we have the right classroom space to be able to deliver what we need for the company. We are in the process of renegotiating the lease agreements and reviewing that just to fully reflect the current use of the site and what that looks like into the future and making sure that roles and responsibilities are effective. We have agreed new block contract and arrangements and we're just in the process of writing those into the contract. And you can see in terms of value for money, the fee price has been maintained and you can see the benchmarking from our externally commissioned partner is indicating that the next phase of delivery per pupil place is at the lower end of benchmark costs across the country for the delivery of school places. So happy to take questions, just a brief overview of where we're at. Enhanced cooperation remains in place and is working effectively to deliver what we need in terms of the school.
Thank you very much, Claire. Comments, anyone? Jane?
Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Jane Somper, Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, Health and Housing. Just wanted to ask for a little bit more understanding of the enrichment and broadening of the learning officer. Obviously, I've got my adulthood, birth to settled adulthood hat on with that. Claire, I just wondered if you could provide a little bit more information about what that entails. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Somper. Part of the thinking is how we can develop more life skills and thinking that through. So the wall garden on site has been put into use, and we're looking at use of allotments and growing our own food and what the range of opportunities could look like going forward. And I know that Andy might want to say a little bit more in his report around what that looks like a little bit later.
Thank you very much for that. Anyone else? All looks pretty straightforward. Claire, you've set it out very well, as always. In that case, I think, Chris, the recommendation is to note, is it? Yeah, as I thought so. Okay, thank you very much for that, Claire. Move on to agenda item 8 now, report from the Independent Chair of Board. Ian, good morning. You got a team about you, have you, today? Have you got a team about you today?
To come up with a team, it means I have to say less and they can say more. But basically, we do have a team with us today. So I've got 3 of the board directors and Andy here, just to help add some depth to the report. What I would say, the report is fairly comprehensive, both about the school and about the community activities. But what I would, as a starter, would say that it's only when you stand still and look back to this time last year that you see the progress that we have made over the last year. And so therefore, recovering the position, moving the school forward, I think there are some great successes that have been made over the last year, and those will move forward again this year. It's been a good start to term. So I think the best way is if I hand over to Andy to add some depth first of all to the school, and then different board directors will address different parts of the report.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, many of the topics that I'll run through will mirror some of the comments that Claire has already said this morning, but I will sort of add my perspective on that so that we can, explore it a little further. So, as Claire alluded to, Ofsted have visited. I was really hoping that the report would be published by today so that we could have had a look at it together, but it is finalised and imminently being published, but not as we sit here today, actually finished that process. So we're cautious about what we can share, but certainly we want to bring to your attention that the feedback we had verbally and all of the drafts that we've had were shared with the council, so they've had an opportunity to see that slightly earlier than the general public, which is important. And I think it's reasonable to say that we feel that Ofsted have reflected in their feedback so far the amount of progress that has been made. So we were pleased with what they found and how they summarised that to us. So that feels like it could be positive news. Claire alluded to the growth. Obviously, there was a period of time when the school consolidated and worked primarily on its quality, which was absolutely the right thing, but we also wanted to return to a state of growth as soon as we were able. That's going very well, and the systems are working well to make sure that placements are well planned. Children have really carefully assessed processes that make sure that when they start at the school, there's a confidence that their needs can be met well, which is good. And I think there's been some really positive work since the last committee meeting about forward planning regarding the classroom. So obviously we know that the capacity of the school will require more of the site to be handed over to us and to have some investment to make sure that we have high quality classroom spaces for them. And there's been a lot of activity with that. So we know there's a milestone coming up of September 24 where in reality we will run out of space, and there's an awful lot of focus from everybody to make sure that the next bank of classrooms are available to us by then. And I'd just like to thank the council for that level of focus, because there's been a lot. Regarding the school, I'd like to bring back to your attention the work we're doing on governance. Claire alluded to it slightly in terms of the role the council are playing in that processes of support and challenge, but also we're looking as an executive and as a board about how we can make that stronger and stronger all the time to make sure that we have an absolute eye on quality in everything that we do. I'll just quickly refer to the question that we've just had about preparation for adulthood. That's a really clear focus for us as a school, and one of the major outcomes that we focus on all the time through our educational work. We have got the wall garden, which is setting off on that front. We're also doing an awful lot of work this year around preparation for adulthood more broadly. So we've set up an independent living flat where young people have got the opportunity to practice some of the skills they'll need in adulthood. And the focus we've got at the moment on careers and forward planning is also really paramount and prominent for us in our development plan. So that was the kind of key overview from my perspective on the school. And what I'll do, I'll pass to various colleagues to add their perspectives as we go through. So Francis, who's a member of our School Quality and Curriculum Committee, may want to add a little bit more to what I've said.
That one? Yeah. I'm Frances Nicholson, and my experience is not in schools, but as lead member for children in another county for a number of years. This project, I came into it at the point where there were difficulties last summer. I have seen such changes, particularly since January. The Curriculum Committee has, I think, got a much better grasp and much greater ability to both to challenge and hold to account and support. I see that as hugely positive. I see the achievements of the school, the settling of the school, the whole atmosphere with the young people as very different, and I'm particularly pleased that there is real confidence in the quality of the staff now, new staff who have arrived, that we're fully staffed, that people now want to come and work in the school. I think that says a great deal for it. We are, as a curriculum committee, very interested in standards because they are hugely useful in all senses of standards, both in terms of overcoming barriers to engage in learning and actually in achievement in learning at whatever level. We're not a school for children with very large intellectual challenges, as you all know. So what we want is a future for our children which includes learning to the degree that they possibly can and supporting them to be able to do that. I now see that happening. I'm very happy to take any questions that as a curriculum committee member I could answer.
Moving on, we have always had a very strong awareness that the Dorset Centre of Excellence will be more than just a school, and I think there's a lot to report in this meeting today about how that's progressed since the last session we had in June. Certainly, we now have capacity with quality being much more stable within the school to look outwards at the other opportunities that are there for us. We've done a lot of development around our leisure facilities since last time. We now have our own community swimming membership portal where members of the public can join and pay to swim before school, which is developing significantly. We've had a very, very positive launch period with that, where there's a huge amount of interest and a lot of positive feedback about that offering, which is good. We're just about to launch swimming lessons for local children in the town who currently have to travel quite a distance in order to have their children learn to swim in a pleasant pool environment. And we also are welcoming a neighbouring primary school to use the swimming facilities during the school day, whilst being very careful to make sure that the Coombe House School has all of its needs met and has a sufficient capacity to use it as they need to. So that's moved forward significantly. We were able to offer short breaks provision over the holidays in the form of holiday clubs, where we worked with a provider who offered 2 weeks of provision for young people. There were a significant number of young people with additional needs who attended and benefited greatly, and the feedback from that again was positive. Before I finish on the Family Fun Day, which was a real success, which will segue nicely into Leslie's contribution, we have also been able to begin work on the conferencing and training facility that we're very keen to have start. That's been a steady start with just a few bookings and collaborations at this stage, but it's nice to see that moving forward, and we certainly have our attention on how we can develop that in the coming months. So finishing on the Family Fun Day, that was a real success at the end of August. We had a very high level of demand coming through for that. I want to be really clear that we were very, very happy to offer a venue, but it was Dorset Council colleagues who ran that day and did so very, very well. And I was on annual leave, actually, so I couldn't be there, but Leslie was, and it might be a good opportunity to hand over to her to talk a little bit about the impact.
Hello, I'm Leslie Miller. Besides being a director of Coombe House, I'm also the chair of Dorset Parent Carer Council, who works in partnership around SEN with children's services and adult services, and I'm very proud of that partnership. To attend the Family Fun Day with one of my colleagues was an absolute privilege. It was a very well-run, organised event. It was a festival in the true celebration manner. The children and parents who attended were varied and mixed, but they all got on and had a wonderful time. There was good support from the local community. We had the library service there offering free library books, brand new to children, which were met with glee and happiness, because some of those children don't have access to things like that. So on behalf of everybody who was there as parent carers, it was really, really good. For the SEN families who attended, it was a unique opportunity for me to see how they felt about being in the space of Coombe House. I learned a lot from it, which Frances and I are both going to share back at our appropriate meetings. But overall, the enthusiasm from families who had heard so many bad stories to actually be in that space, to get the feeling of this is something new and something different, was really exciting and appreciated, because we've come a long journey as a team to see where we've come from, to now see that change in families' attitudes, which is really, really encouraging. The families that we met and talked to were varied age. I spoke to families who've got a 4-year-old. I spoke to a young lady who's on the cusp of 17 and looking at transition and adulthood, and their keenness to find out more of what the school can offer is something that we will definitely take forward and explore. So I'm very, very proud of the way we've moved forward and how the event was so very well received. There was a group of refugees who were very, very well supported, with buses bringing them in. The food was immaculate. You'd never seen such good food. And that was really appreciated by everybody. So on behalf of everybody who was there from parent carers, it was a very good and very much appreciated and valued event, and I hope we can do more there. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to the implementation of the business plan, obviously last time we met in June, the latest version of the business plan was approved by this committee, and we've been since then working hard to make sure that that's implemented as per the terms that we wrote into that plan. There were three main components really that needed to be resolved following that business plan to make sure that all of our documents aligned. One was an arrangement around a loan. One was making sure the commissioning agreement was resolved and updated to reflect the new model, and one was around the lease. And I'm pleased to say there's been progress with all three of those processes. The loan has been finalised, and we now have a great deal of stability and an ability to implement our plan thanks to that being in place. We haven't actually had to draw down from that loan facility yet, because we feel we've got some really strong financial management processes in place to make sure that we're being prudent and careful. But the fact that it's there means that we're able to implement the plan as written, which is positive. Claire's already reflected that the commissioning agreement has been broadly updated around the new commissioning arrangements that were in that business plan. And we haven't quite got to sign off on that, but I'm confident we are very, very nearly there. And we are having positive conversations around updating the lease to reflect again what that business plan implied and stated, and that is moving forward, and we hope that will come to the same point soon too. In terms of the financial position of the company, we're really confident to report that things are going well, and the budget that we put forward within the business plan is being adhered to, and actually we're performing above where that said we would be, which is positive. It's the right time again to hand over to another of my colleagues to see if there's anything to add, which is Diane, the chair of our Finance and Risk Committee.
Thank you, Andy. My name's Diane Grinnell and I chair the Finance Committee. My background is that I am a qualified accountant and I spent most of my career working at senior leadership levels within education. So the work of our Finance Committee, we are, with the exception of August, continuing to meet on a monthly basis, and we've no plans at the moment to change that. We monitor three things really: the ongoing financial situation of the school, the key elements that underpin the business plan and making sure that there are no impediments to taking those forward, and the wider risks that might impact on the school. Just taking each of those three things in turn then, you've heard from Andy, at the moment we've got a very positive position with the finances. We are ahead of our budget, and our budget absolutely reflects the business plan that was approved in June. So our income and expenditure, we are ahead of budget. We're aware of some positive variances, some adverse variances. That's no different to any organisation. But at the moment, we've got a high degree of confidence that we will deliver on the first year of the business plan, if not improve on that. Our cash position also is positive. We haven't had to draw down on the loan as we'd expected in August. We will have to draw down on that loan, but we are hoping that that will be later in this term. And as Andy said, that's due to some financial positive variances, but also due to some very careful financial management and working very closely with colleagues in the council to make sure that we can continue to do that. As regards the key elements of the business plan that will assure us of delivering, first of all, the loan. As you've heard from Andy, that has been now approved and signed off and is there waiting for us to draw down when we need it. And we would like to thank everybody within the council who worked with us on the negotiation and the agreement of that loan. Second key element, or second and third, are the commissioning agreements and the lease. Again, as you've heard from Andy, that is currently under discussion with colleagues in the council. We feel that those discussions are progressing positively, but obviously we will be pleased when they're signed off and we've got certainty, and that will take away one of the key risks of the delivery of the business plan when we've got final agreement on those. And the fourth big element of the business plan that we're watching very carefully is the preparation of the classrooms that Andy referred to, ready for next September. It's really important to us from a quality perspective, but also from a financial perspective, that those classrooms are ready, because if they're not, we won't be able to deliver on the business plan, although we are doing some contingency planning, because as everybody that's involved in business, in building projects knows, there's always a degree of risk in that. But I think at the moment we feel very confident that we are managing that and reviewing that on a regular basis, and we will be able to keep you updated as we move forward. So finally, as I referred to the financial position being positive, we did agree as a committee that we would carry out a formal reforecast of our budget at the 6-month point, and we are in the process of just checking all of our assumptions within that budget, and the committee in its October meeting will review a formal forecast report. But as I said already, I'm not expecting that we'll have any significant surprises or any bad news in that report, and we'll share that with you at the next meeting. I'm happy to take any questions if you've got any.
Thank you. And just one more section for me before I pass back to our chair, and that is about HR and our situation regarding staffing. Obviously, the location of the Dorset Centre of Excellence is reasonably rural, and that has in the past posed some challenges. but we are in a strong position as we speak, and we are fully staffed, and the quality and the number of applicants that are coming through seems to be improving as the reputation of the school improves, which is pleasing. We know that there's a number of other areas of recruitment which are coming up, which are very important. The growth of our staff team in the lead up to September 24 is very significant, and the move towards offering residential social care services will pose a number of focuses for us with regard to recruitment and retention, because those areas can be more challenging than the ones we are currently in. So we've got a very keen eye on that, but it feels very positive at the moment that we have a fully staffed team of really high quality people, and the interest we're getting is improving over time. So that's the last bit of the report that I was going to summarise. I'll pass back to Ian to close.
Thank you. Well, what we've tried to do is to bring a bit of life to the report in all of the sections, and also to show how we work collaborative on many of these areas. So I think this is a stage for any questions that you may have, sir.
An email from the local government reporter. We'd love some clarity around name, title. I mean, you did mention names, but for the interest of the reporting and the clarity of that, could you perhaps go around and Ian Comfort, Chairman, and move around the room and do that for him, please?
So Ian Comfort, Chair of the Dorset Centre of Excellence.
Yeah. Hi, Andy Holder, Managing Director, Dorset Centre of Excellence.
Frances Nicholson, Director of the Dorset Centre of Excellence.
Leslie Meller, Director, Centre of Excellence.
Diane Grinnell, Director, Dorset Centre of Excellence.
That adds a bit of clarity. I know Trevor grumbles at times, but we know each other, and we tend to use first names, which is fine. But in the interest of getting his reporting right, I think it was only right and proper that we got that clarity. Before I open up the debate, I'm curious, I'm a curious sort of fellow actually. I'm curious about the 3 schools in one, something that I heard about a while ago, and I understand the principles of all of that. I can see the benefits of it. Could somebody just explain a bit more about that and what progress you've made?
Schools within schools isn't a new concept really, but I'll leave Andy to pick up on how that would operate.
Yeah, no, I mean, what we put forward in our business plan, and we tried to explain that within, is that schools working with young people that we are working with tend to be a certain size, and yet we have an ambition to help more children, and we were just looking for the most effective and research-based ways that we could do that. And actually, by dividing the site up effectively into 3 schools within one campus, it allows us to work with what is probably the optimal model and size for a school for children with the needs that we support, without bringing in some of the challenges that you get if that size grows beyond. So it is a method through which we can focus in on groups of children with particular needs, or of children who are particular ages, and focusing in a way that really works for them, without bringing any sort of compromise to quality once you get over a certain size. So that's the concept that we've put forward. We're currently working on a sort of hybrid kind of 2 schools, because we're not at capacity, but we've got a very clear pathway towards growing into 3 as the capital investment comes and as classrooms are handed over.
So just to be that clear though, there aren't actually 3 different schools, or even 2 different. That's why I mentioned schools within schools. It's actually breaking the campus up into manageable units, if I put it that way. But it's 1 school with 3 schools within it.
Thank you very much for that clarity. I think it's helpful not only to me, but also those that might be listening and those in the chamber here. Comments? Questions? Byron?
Thank you. Yes, it's a comment, really. I, as well as my role here at on Cabinet, my ward is also abuts Shaftesbury, so I'm very aware of obviously all the discussions and rumours and conversations that happen around the school. And I know that within my own ward anyway, which are the surrounding villages, the opening of the facilities has been incredibly well received. And I think it was something that people were waiting for. I understand the issues around that, and also obviously the safeguarding element of that too. But I know it was a very pressing matter. I know it seems perhaps a little trivial, but it was very important to those villages to have that facility opened. And I believe it started last Monday. Is that right? Yeah, quite early. To obviously to work within the school time, and I've received extremely positive feedback from residents who've signed up. I think there was a slight blip on the payment on the website for some, and I'm sure that's been dealt with. But nonetheless, really welcome that for the surrounding villages.
Morning, Councillor Byron Quayle, Cabinet Member for Children's Services. Just building on from what Jane mentioned, absolutely. I remember last time I mentioned that my inbox had been filled, not necessarily by some of the fantastic work within the school that's been done, but by the community issues around the swimming pool. And literally, I've received those emails coming back saying thank you for that, because that builds into the community. And that, why is that important to me, is because we're talking about staff retention, we're talking about staff recruitment. The reputation of the school is important in that realm, and that positive community view of the school or Dorset Centre of Excellence builds into that. So that's working fantastically. Also, I want to just mention and just talk on the Fun Day. I know a number of years ago when Teresa Levy, the Director of Children's Services, and my predecessor, Councillor Andrew Parry, spoke of a vision for that site. It seems to me, it seems a long time ago, and a lot of work has been put into that it wasn't just a school. It wasn't going to just be this. It wasn't siloed here, siloed there. It was going to be a fantastic asset for the young people of Dorset and that community. And it strikes me that community day, or that on the beach day, absolutely embodied that. And I've personally had emails and calls from some of the residents, particularly in Blandford, who came up to use that site, just how much they were struck by what a fantastic facility that whole area is. And it wasn't what they heard from some of the negative press, because we always sit on that. So it was just more a thank you to Teresa and her team and Claire for providing the support from the officers for that, and of course to DECO for providing that facility. And it just seems to me that yes, there will always be bumps along the way. We know that. That's the way the world works. But we've kind of got that forward motion. And from the points that were raised earlier and from Claire's report earlier, it just builds that sort of confidence. And I know that confidence within the community is growing. So it's more thank you to everyone involved in the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Byron and Jane. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much. Very comprehensive overview. I can see why you've got the team. It gives everybody a chance to show their expertise around certain facets of what's going on. So the report is to be noted. Noted? Silence is yes. Right, move on to urgent items. There are no urgent items today. Next item is exempt business. I need to move to exclusion of the press and the public for the following items in view of the likely disclosure of exempt information within the meaning of paragraph, whatever the paragraph is, of the Schedule 12A, the Local Government Act 1972, as amended. Can I have a proposal, please?
Chairman, I'll propose we go into exempt business.
Seconded by Jane Somper. Thank you very much, public.